Welcome to the Reality of Herbal Therapy podcast, episode 71, Relationships. Welcome to the Reality of Herbal Therapy podcast. So I kind of wanted to start off with a story. Dr. James, when he was a teenager, him and his parents got involved in a multi-level company, and he would basically sign people on. And when you sign people on, the people underneath you, depending on how well they did, was how well you earned your money. And so he would, at like 14, 15 years old, he would sit down with these couples that were basically signed up underneath him to sell, and they were having horrible sales. Things weren't going very well, and he'd sit down and he'd visit with them, and basically he found out that just by helping them with their relationship, it changed everything around them. So they were able to sell better, which is, that was a byproduct of it, but it changed their entire outlook because their relationship was better. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about some relationships and how, especially right now, there's a lot going on in the world that we're all kind of like in forced solitude, but we're all forced together if we have a family, if we're married, or have a significant other in the house. We're all stuck together more than any other time. So we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how to build that relationship, whether it's the relationship you have with yourself, or relationship with your significant other, or the relationship you have with your family.
I love it. I love talking about relationships, even though it's a lifelong struggle and it brings the sweetest happiness and usually the sweetest struggles too, all at the same time. So the baseline for all of it begins with self, like you said. And I've really done some research into it and some living with that. And Dr. James did also. He worked with so many people, and you always have to start with yourself because you are the only true person that you can ever change. You cannot change anyone else. You can influence others, but until you do it with yourself, you can't really expect anything from someone else. So by starting with yourself, there's amazing things that can happen. Some of the things that I found that helped me the most is my personal routine. So I have 8 kids, and it is hard sometimes to find time for myself. So I have to choose to take that time and to schedule that time to be able to get the basics done, just the basics that I know that I need to do every day to keep my sanity. And right now, with everybody in the home, so I'm a homeschooler also, so I always have my kids around. Just right now, we're around each other even more because there's no external activities. We can't go to the park and play. We can't do all those things. So I'm always around my family anyways. But to have my personal routine. Now, for me, my routine, the only way I could squeeze it in that was guaranteed 99% of the time that I wouldn't have a disruption is if I do it early in the morning. At times in my life, I would get up at 4:30 in the morning so that I could have everything that I really wanted that could set my day on the right path. I could have it all done by about 7:30, I think. So that was so important for me, and it made a huge difference in my life because then no matter how the rest of my day went, I had already done the things that were most important to me. So for me, I'm religious, so I wanted to get my scripture study done early in the morning. I also, exercise is important to me, but it's really easy not to get that done. So I would get up and I have a rebounder, and I would rebound first thing in the morning. If I wanted a shower, for sure, if I wanted a guaranteed shower, it needed to happen before that time. And so many other things, some reflection time, some, what was the other one?
Journaling.
Some journaling, just all sorts of amazing things. I tried thinking I could do those in the evening, but with all the ages of kids I have and a husband to keep up with and just everything else, my evenings didn't I couldn't be consistent enough with it. So if I kept a routine in the morning, for me, made all the difference in the world. And I've actually moved into, I haven't always been one that wears makeup every day, or that totally, just comb your hair, put it in a ponytail. But I've gotten more recently to where I do all of those things in my morning routine rather than thinking I'm going to get it done later, or maybe I won't see someone. So even in the shutdown, it's been amazing for me to get up and put my makeup on every day. And I still don't wear much makeup. Mascara and some lip gloss or something, maybe the extent of my lips, of my makeup, but it's still a routine that is taking care of myself and putting myself first so that I can take care of everyone else has made a huge difference in my life.
So to highlight what Lynn talked about in her routine, there was gratitude journaling.
Oh my goodness, if you only get to do one thing, the gratitude journaling is like top priority. I think I have 3, 6, 9, 12, 140 days in a row right now that I've been doing gratitudes, and I had started it before we ever went into this lockdown, and I think it saves my life right now. I make sure, sorry to interrupt you, but no. I had forgotten that I wanted to say a little more about that. The gratitudes make such a difference for me and I do them first thing in the morning, because for some reason it doesn't work any other time of day for me. But a few tips and tricks, especially for you moms out there. For dads, I don't know if they need it. I'm not a man, but I'm a woman, and it makes a huge difference for me. If I am struggling with someone in my family, I make sure I write something I'm grateful for about that person every day. So I don't struggle a lot with Jim, but I make sure, because he is my companion and he's going to be with me long after my kids are gone, I make sure I have at least one gratitude about him every day so that I can make sure I'm focusing on something positive, no matter how negative the rest of my life is. Something positive about that. If I have a teenager I'm struggling with that just has had a rotten 3 days, it really, really helps me to make sure that I put a gratitude for them in my gratitude journal, no matter how simple it is. I'm grateful they combed their own hair. Counts. That can be amazing. And I've been surprised in the past 2 months how many times I've put toilet paper on my gratitude list, because it's been so hard to find. So I'm glad you reminded me of the gratitude journal, because that, oh my goodness, has been so, so powerful.
So in that routine, gratitude journal, and we always think of that one's almost the first, like almost the most important in everything that we ever talk about in relationships, because gratitude is what basically it helps your entire body to be, not only to be in a place of happiness, but also a place of health. So that's why one of the reasons why we encourage that. And then Lynn, like she said, she's religious. Another way of wording that is your core book. Spend some time in your core book, whatever your core, whatever sets your morals, whatever sets your ethics. If you spend some time in that, also will build that relationship with yourself, and it strengthens you. And then the third one, another one that quite often we talk about, is like either self-reflection, meditation, pondering, if you're religious, prayer, something like that. And that also is for building yourself.
Okay, so now I just had a thought with you talking about that, because I don't think we can move on from self until I've talked about one more thing. There's some people out there, so I know we're talking to different age categories of people, and people from all over and different lifestyles and different everything. I know that constantly Dr. James and us, we've come up, the people that ask the most questions about how to get a routine in their life and can't figure out how to fit it in are the ones with young children. So for people with young children, like I'm saying, I get up at 4:30 and I do my routine. Right now, I don't have a baby that needs me first thing in the morning, and I have kids that sleep all night and all of those things. But for the mothers that are still in that amazing time of their lives when it's 100% work from the time you wake up until you go to bed, because you have little munchkins you're chasing around all over the place, Your routine may be spread out throughout the entire day, not just in one thing. But if you decide there are 3 things in a day that are very, very important to you that you can get done. So I keep my gratitude journal on my phone. I used to keep it in a book, but my book wasn't always with me. So like if you're a nursing mother or a child falls asleep on you, or you only get 3 minutes in the bathroom that you might be able to type in something, my goal is to get 10 gratitudes in a day. So if I start a gratitude list in the morning, and I don't do it now that it takes me all day, but for some mothers, if they don't just get to sit down and do that, it's okay if you need to spread it out through the day to be able to do your gratitudes, to be able to, as long as you are getting that list done throughout the day and tie it to something you are doing anyways. I mean, even though potty time seems a little silly and all the kids are banging on the door usually, that may be a time when a mother with children can get that done. And if you don't get to write it down, say it out loud. Talk it in your head, whatever you need to. Focus on the gratitudes. Gratitude that diaper did not overflow, that you changed it before it was all over the floor. I mean, that's gratitude. So really make sure you take care of yourself, but don't beat yourself up about it. One of the most empowering things I learned about my personal routine when I did have little tiny children at home, because I beat myself up constantly because I didn't get that list done, was instead of it being a to-do list that I needed to get done today, often it was a to-do list that I looked back on and it was like, oh my goodness, I did get this done today. So it was, I looked back on it and wow, I got to comb my hair today. Wow. My kids slept for 20 minutes instead of 2. Wow. So if you're not in a position where you can deliberately make things happen, focusing on the good things and recognizing them in your day may be a first step into moving into taking care of yourself.
So we wanted to move on to next with your significant other. If you're married or have... so with my wife and I, Lynn and I... So we went to a couples retreat, and one of the things that they taught to do is something that they called swaying. And the presenter put it this way. He said, "Men, this is not dancing. You're not dancing, you're swaying." And what swaying does is let me explain how to do it first. So for us, we have a special playlist on my phone, and I pick a song, one that it's not a fast song, so we're not like whatever, and you just lean to the left and lean to the right, and you're just swaying back and forth, and you follow the rhythm of the music, and you want a slower song, and especially one that has the words have a lot of meaning to you as a couple, and then you want to hold each other close. And as you sway back and forth, it's not that you're dancing together, but that you're moving together for this short amount of time. And by moving together in swaying together, you're basically putting yourself to where you're in sync for at least that short amount of time, and that really changes a whole lot of how you're physically in sync, and it makes it so you can be emotionally in sync.
I have been amazed since we've started doing that how much it has absolutely been able to change things in our home and in our relationship, because like everybody has disagreements, everybody has hard times, has moments of whatever it may be, frustration, or so like I could be frustrated with the kids and frustrated with all sorts of stuff and kind of feel alone in my role that day. But if I sway with Jim, so sometimes we can sway a few times a day because we need it. We need to get back in sync because something threw us out of sync. We try to do it first thing in the morning, like together as often as we can. But I am amazed at what it does to get us back in sync. So if we've had an argument or if whatever, it just helps us to loosen up. Sometimes in the beginning of a sway, both bodies can be stiff, like whatever it is, whether it's emotion or it's just tension of the past 3 days of stuff or whatever. It's not even anything against each other. It is just something. But by the end of a song, if you've picked the right songs, then it really helps to just loosen up and make us open to each other to work together better and to be able to be a team in whatever's coming our way. I absolutely love it. And I have actually heard stories of friends and relations that people that it has actually saved their marriage. And in the beginning, it was very, very difficult for them to sway. And then they got to where they needed to sway 10 times a day so they could get back in sync and remember what was important to them, because they wanted to hold on to their companion forever. They didn't want to just be there for a few more months and it be done. They wanted that relationship to hold because they are going to be together way longer than their kids are going to be around. So you have to be able to, you don't have to be able to stand your spouse, but it's a really good idea. And swaying really makes a difference. So a recap on how that's done. You plant your feet firmly on the ground. You stand close together. We like to wrap our arms around each other. He's taller, so his arms on top, mine down around his waist. And we just sway. And we have songs. It's really interesting as we worked through figuring out our songs. It really needs to resonate with both of you. If there is a song that irritates either one of you, it needs to not be on that list. Because we found in the beginning, there were certain songs that I could not have on the sway list because they just, I don't know what it was, but for me, they did not work for what I was trying to achieve with swaying on that sway list. But it needs to be songs that bring you together and that you agree on. And like he says, not a really heavy beat. We know it's the wrong song for a sway when I can't help but dance while we're swaying. And that's just a little too fast. I love those songs and I love dancing, but a sway song isn't to move all over the room. It's to be planted and firm and to sway together. And it is just beyond empowering. Now, to add gratitudes into the couple thing, I kind of touched on that earlier with the self thing. It really helps to look for positive things in your spouse and in yourself every day, because that helps to move your relationship forward. It is so easy, especially when you're stuck together all the time, to look at all of the stupid little things that somebody does. And if you're already having a bad day, you happen to see more bad things in other people if you are having a bad day. So it really, really helps to look at and be grateful for those little things, even if it's just that his socks got into the dirty clothes, or that that she got up with the baby in the night, or whatever it is. That one really, really makes a difference. Whether you write it down, whether you say it out loud, whether you, however you need to be able to remember to focus on those gratitudes, especially at this time. If your family is not used to being around each other all the time and you are having to be home with each other a lot and with your spouse, that can be a really trying challenge for some people. Make sure you focus on some of the good things. Focusing on the good things can help to soften the blow of some of the other things that are just not near as important. Oh, and then there's date night. How on earth do you date in quarantine? That's a good question.
It's been a challenge for us. It's like,
it has.
So I like as we were like talking about this and preparing, I felt like I'm not courting Lynn as well as I should, because it's like I'm home constantly and I'm around her and the family all the time. But she pointed out sometimes we just get in the car and drive off and go somewhere. It's just the fact of being alone. And so I started adding them up. Even if we just run to a drive-through and get an ice cream and drive around the block a few times, or walk. We go for a walk.
Deliberate time together without the kids.
Yeah.
And it really helps because we are examples in our lives to our kids or whoever else is around us. So letting them know this is a date, even if it's not the typical version of a date, because it's not a movie and dinner and all that stuff. It's me and Daddy are going on a date. Even if all we do is get in the car and we're gone for 20 minutes doing whatever. I mean, we could sometimes we have just gone and sat in a parking lot and enjoyed visiting together and being together for that. And, date night has actually even sometimes been, let's just sit and watch a movie together after the kids have gone to bed. So it's really a matter of how you focus it and how you label that time. Not necessarily that it's the normal thing that you've always done. I saw some really cool, so I'm on Facebook occasionally, not very often, but I saw one of my friends that her and her husband just got a picnic blanket and went out in the backyard and had their own picnic. They stuck the kids on a movie or whatever in the house. Your kids, you're in charge of yourself. And they went out on their back lawn and had a picnic and just enjoyed each other. And that is so romantic to me. I've always loved picnics. Jim sometimes takes me, like before this, we used to love, that was our favorite date in New Mexico when the weather was right. We would go get dinner somewhere and take it to a park and sit on the grass and just, I don't know, there was something about that, or walk around the park or whatever, and we just absolutely loved it. So I really think in this time it's part of finding out what you love or what your companion loves, and you may need to take turns. Okay, honey, what do you want to do this time? And or make up a list. In that relationship class that we took, it was really awesome. They actually handed us this little booklet that had a few questions in it, things we needed to fill out, and I loved how empowering the list was, because it was things that you take for granted that you already know, but that you don't really pay attention, and they taught us how to use it. So in it had and you're asking your spouse these questions, or you're just observing if they're not the kind of person that's going to tell you, what are their favorite things? What is their favorite food? What is their favorite kind of gifts? What is their favorite
place to eat?
Their favorite place to eat, or their favorite kind of food to eat. What is
favorite kind of clothes?
Favorite kind of clothes. Yeah, all favorite those kinds of things. And it really simplifies the process of figuring out something to do together when you know things that you like. So it could be a fun date night thing just to get those kinds of questions answered, to find out what kind of dates do you like brainstorm what are 10 things that we could do while we're in quarantine as a date, and then what kind of things can we do to spoil each other, because even just a little tiny paragraph love letter on the pillow can change somebody's day from just this down, I feel like we're stuck here forever thing, and just, I don't know, make it just amazing, just little treats of things. Some people would love a Post-it note on the mirror, would just make their day. It's not a date, but it's showing love in your relationship towards your spouse, because that has to hold through this time and through a lot longer than this. So developing some of those habits now that can just make a difference. I know me and Jim, I don't know how every family eats dinner, but I love to sit by Jim while we eat, and we have an added advantage. He is left-handed and I am right-handed. So if we sit on the right side of each other, we can eat really well and hold hands at the same time. And I absolutely love that. So when we make sure that we have the table set in such a way that we can do that, it makes a huge difference for us in our relationship, but it's also, our kids just know that we like to sit together. So they don't try to get in between us anymore. If you have little tiny kids, it's their job to get in between you. But our kids are getting better at that. And it's just wonderful. So those little things that mean a lot to people, the sitting together and the knowing when to take that time to intentionally kiss your spouse once a day. I mean, sometimes we get so wrapped up in life, especially if you have kids and distractions and all sorts of other things going on. Just having a priority for your spouse or significant other to make sure that they know that they are loved, even if it's one thing. If you do 1% better each day. So if you start with one thing, I am going to smile at them today. That's awesome. I am going to say one nice thing about them on my gratitudes list every day. Whatever that is, I think it's really important, and it puts that energy out there and it helps the entire energy, the entire home to be better, because I know our kids do better when we as a couple are doing better.
So hopefully those are some good tips. We wanted to also hit on building up your family relationship. So Lynn kind of touched on one of them already, sitting down to dinner. And having a meal where everybody sits around the table. And so as we were preparing again, as I was thinking about it, some of the best times we've had for that is when we tell stories of how we met, or some things I did in college, or growing up stories. I have a brother that has some special needs, so he always did really funny things, and so they always wanting to hear, tell me a funny story about Uncle Chris,
Mm-hmm.
And so once you get started telling those stories, the kids really eat it up, and that's something that will stick with them, and it really builds that family relationship because they get to know mom and dad and everybody else.
Yeah, I love it. It is dinner time, or sometimes it ends up not being dinner for us. Sometimes it ends up being lunch or something else. But it's absolutely amazing what it does when we sit down. So the mood of the day can be whatever it can be, and that sometimes can completely change it. I found something, if the tension in the home has been high for the day and everybody's been on everybody's nerves, or there's just been a lot of complaining and all sorts of stuff going, I love to add some kind of gratitudes to the dinner table, which you don't say, okay guys, it's time for gratitudes. You just start talking about happy things. Hey, do you have something you're happy about today? Or what's something good that happened in the world today? Or whatever, to help get, so we do the gratitudes with ourselves, about our couples, whatever, but to get the family involved in seeing the good in things. Because even in quarantine, and even in all the changes that are happening in the world right now, there are so many good things going on, and good changes and good stuff. It is wonderful to walk away from all the down. I mean, I don't know about your news feed, but my news feed is full of negative things, negative complaining, all sorts of stuff. And the kids are feeling the vibes of the world right now. And to add gratitudes to that is just awesome. And the dinner table is an awesome time to do that. I mean, if you're driving around in the car somewhere, talking about that too, aren't we glad the sun is out today? I mean, that just simple. It doesn't have to be really fancy things. It can be the simplest things. But the sitting down together makes a huge difference. Now, for some people, sitting down together can be a frustrating time, and I've learned a couple of tricks that help with the frustration of sitting down. So I think we have enough time to talk about that just a little bit. So sitting down at the dinner table, maybe not something your family has ever done or that they don't do well. But for me, one thing that always brought frustration to the table was the fight over who was going to get to sit where, and who got to sit by mom and who got to sit by dad, or all of those things. And it really helped when we made kind of a rotation of this is where these people are sitting, kind of assigned seats. I think it was, and we took turns. It was especially when we had little kids, because, everybody wants to sit by mom, but daddy needs a turn. So it really helped when they knew that on Monday this person did, or on Tuesday this person, or on Wednesday this person, or this week it is so-and-so's turn, or this week and that made a huge difference in us being able to sit down and eat. And then also, depending on the age of your children, and if you want to be able to truly sit down and have discussion, which some families just can't their dynamic can't handle that. But if you want to be able to have discussions, if you have something in a drawer or a tote near the table that when the little kids get bored, you can just hand it to them, and it keeps them happy and quiet, while the older ones can still enjoy the atmosphere of the table and all sorts of stuff. So we like to keep crayons and paper and stuff easily accessible, because then somebody starts drawing, and inevitably everybody wants to start drawing. So those are some things that helped us with being able to sit around the table.
One more suggestion we had is play. Playing together as a family is really important. For Christmas, we got laser tag, and we had enough for almost everybody in the house to have one, and it was fun just to the running around and playing on the grass and chasing each other and play is really, really important. And if you don't have something like that, another thing that we did was we call it a dance party. We find a song, and it's usually one that the teenagers really like, and you just turn on the music.
And get up and dance.
Get up and dance or wiggle and get the little kids involved and have them wiggling and just the bouncing around. And it, anytime you do exercise or physical movement, it releases endorphins, which actually helps you feel better. But releasing the endorphins in a group setting like that actually helps you to bond better to your family. And so
also, even though it's not exactly swaying because you got a group going on, I think when you're all moving to the same rhythm in the home, it also helps with the family being able to sync together and to be able to get in the groove. I don't know what I would call it, but it's been amazing to me because if I ask my kids, hey, you guys want to do a dance party? The answer is usually no. But if Jim walks in, turns the music on, and everybody just can't help they can't stand still, they just start moving. By the end of it, everybody's involved in it and loving it and having fun. And Jim has a really good habit of or ability to do that, because even laser tag, it's not like he says, okay guys, let's get a laser tag game together. No, he will come out of the back room all dressed for laser tag and start getting people involved, and they want to play just because they hear his going off type thing. So it's a just as parents, we can change the feel in our home on a dime if we are in sync and if we can think of those things. And the nice thing about having a couple in a home is that when one is down and doesn't feel up to all of that, usually the other one can get some amazing things like that started, some activities together. I know another one my kids love to do, but it's usually not if I ask them, they're going to say no. But if we just get it out, they start doing it and play it for hours, is charades. And there's like apps on your phone where you can hold it above your head and you flip it down, and it just gives you all these things that you have to act out. And the kids really have a lot of fun with that, trying to figure out what that is. But they usually don't beg to be able to do that. But it's the get people involved, get them to put their phone down, get them to walk away from whatever they're doing and just spend some time together.
So we really hope these have been helpful. We've enjoyed getting to share all of this that we've learned with you. If you have any questions, just let us know and we'll talk to you next time. It is not the intent of professional herbal instruction or any persons associated therewith to diagnose or prescribe. The intent is only to offer herbal information for your consideration. In the event you use this information without your doctor's approval, you are prescribing for yourself, which is your God-given right. But professional herbal instruction or any persons associated herewith assume no responsibility. The claims and statements made on this podcast have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.